Welcome to Remembering Your Oneness with Xane Daniel and Monika Kupiec, where we know everything, and so do you. Hello.
Hey,
I just
welcome back.
realized that in that intro bit, I say Remembering Your Oneness, and the title of this show is Remembering Our Oneness.
Oh no. Uh-oh.
Right away we
There
have
we go.
internet problems. Yeah. Okay. What were you going to say?
Well, it's all about embracing the present moment.
That's right. Exactly. So whatever came out was correct, right? So man, it's too bad
Well,
because
I meant with the internet.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So
I
we have
meant
some
with the
internet
internet.
issues today. And that's, of course, because I'm on the road. I'm using my cell connection, which is actually rock solid right now. So I don't understand why we're having these problems, but I guess we just got to deal with it.
Yeah, we'll see what
Life on the
happens.
road.
We'll hope. Maybe
Yeah.
we should just make this a chat live podcast today.
Right. Yeah. We
We'll
just
just
type.
type out our responses and just go with the flow.
Right. Well, maybe it'll fix itself. It feels okay right now. So anyway, our topic today is what? It's living in the moment. And see, there was a moment right there where you were waiting, you were listening, you were expecting, like, oh, what's he gonna say? What is it gonna be? What could the show be about? I have no idea. Oh, and where did your mind go? Did it go, oh no, did we lose connection with him? Did he forget what it was? Like, wow, the mind can just do so much in a moment. And
I was just patiently waiting for you to say it because you always say it. I didn't
right.
get
I wasn't talking about you specifically. I was thinking about the audience, like they're like, hello, what is it? Are you gonna say what the topic is?
So whoever's listening, if you want to drop where you're listening from, so that way we know where you're at, where your present reality is.
Yes. Ooh, your present reality is. That's good. Yeah, that actually reminds me. I was talking to the ninth dimensional Pleiadians through my friend. She can channel them and goes into a trance channel when she channels them. And I was trying to ask about kind of like how reality works. I was going a nice light question, and and she really started to like try to define or explain how it worked, and how different people can have different experiences and different realities and so forth. And she ended up kind of using like a bubble analogy. So everyone's in their own bubble that they've kind of created, and what they believe is real for them. And when two people are together or communicating with each other, then they've co-created their own bubble. So right now, you and I, Monika, are in this bubble of reality that is very specific to the rules that we both believe are true. So if we believe that we can also communicate to each other telepathically, and we really, really believe it, we just know it, then we can.
Well, do you want to try that?
That was just an example. We could try it. I don't think I know that I can do that at the moment, so I don't think it'll work. But that's kind of the trick, is to be able to like know whatever it is that you want, or whatever it is that you are experiencing. You know that you are going to have the relationship of your dreams. You are going to have no problems with income or money, or that you're going to have an abundant situation. It's all about that really truly knowing. And just like we know that it's gonna be night later, right? Like that the sun is going to set and the earth is going to rotate so that we can't see it anymore. And since we all believe that so strongly, we make sure that it happens. But if we could believe that about the fact that we could just lift up off the ground and fly, then we would be able to do that.
I think it's more than just a knowing. I think it's also a trust. You know, you got to trust yourself to surrender to allowing things to come forward.
Yeah.
Knowing is like, oh, like, yeah, sure. Knowing is almost like a proof. So it's like more proof based, I think. But knowing
Yeah.
could be like a sense also. So you can sense things that are going to be okay, or giving yourself hope, that could fall into a knowing. But for me, the present moment is really about trusting, just trusting myself, that I don't need to be in a worry state, or that I need to be in the past or the future. It's more of like, I trust myself right now and I feel good and I feel safe. I wouldn't, like, sometimes I would call it a knowing also, that I know that I'm safe. I know that I'm this or that. But I think the bottom line goes to trusting this moment right now.
Yeah, those terms are very similar to each other, and they're all kind of wrapped up in the same block of mental strength, because also there's like the word faith, which is an important aspect of that as well. So that's sort of like the knowing, the faith, and the trust are really all together there. So yeah,
Mhm.
I agree completely. But that's not what our topic is today. It just kind of came up because you talked about our reality, so I couldn't
Oh.
help it. So yeah, so I did a video, of course, as usual, today, and today is about living in the moment. And I was a little bit more, I don't know, like vulnerable in this one. Like I normally kind of, this is how it is, and here's the information, and I will provide to you as though I'm a speaker from, the news or something, or like a documentary host. And
Mhm.
today it was a lot more conversational. I was a lot more kind of like honest, or vulnerable. Like my true personality kind of came out as I went a little bit. I had a little bit of fun with kind of one of the ways that I love living in the moment is to just be amazed by everything, because we are miracles observing miracles. Like everything is absolutely unbelievable, and yet it constantly happens all the time. That
Mhm.
and I, gave lots of examples, and it's fun to like explore this, because you can pretty much just pick anything and go, ants. Ants are a colony, and they all communicate to each other somehow, and we don't even totally understand, but they just know where to go, and they know the paths that they've created. I don't know, are they like leaving little droplets of goo that they're like, oh, I smell more goo and I'm supposed to follow this path? Or is it like telepathy, or that, and then there's this queen that lays eggs, and they all take the eggs and they put it over here. Like, it's just this amazing community, this amazing thing that happens all the time, is constantly happening absolutely everywhere. I think every place has ants. I'm sure
Mhm.
maybe like Antarctica, which is kind of funny because the word ant is in Antarctica. But anyway, that they might not have ants. So, so that's the kind of thing that it's just, you can really think about, observe, and be a part of all these crazy miracles. And like I said, all you got to do is just pick something, and you can just go off on how crazy it is.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, sometimes you could just observe a tree and then see all the different leaves that are falling, or just see what kind of birds like land on the tree, or what comes up, and that's really just being in the present moment. I one time woke up from a DMT trip and I was on the sand, and I literally just saw like an ant just walking by, and because I rolled over to the side and opened my eyes, and I was like feeling the leaves that are around, just to make sure that I was like back in my body. And I just saw this ant just walking on the sand, and I'm like, wow, how fucking beautiful! Like this ant just like living and just in the present moment. Like I just need to be like this ant now. Like just,
Yeah,
just walking. I just gotta walk. That's all I gotta do. One step in front of the other.
right. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's just, we take it for granted. Like that's the thing, is that our minds are all about, like worrying and predicting what's next and handling problems and solving problems and being in the problem solving mindset. The problem solving mindset is not really living in the moment. I mean, you kind of are, but mostly you're trying to fix something in the future. And so you're putting so much effort and energy and thought, and a lot of times comes with that is more worry and lower vibrational emotions,
Mm-hmm.
and you can get yourself all wrapped up in trying to solve whatever the problem is, as opposed to just going, you know what, these problems are all essentially going to solve themselves. I really don't have to do anything. I don't have to effort nearly as hard as I think I do.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to prove that by living in the moment. And there's just so many different, there's really a lot of different ways to live in the moment too. Oh, did I lose you? See
Yeah.
that?
Well, I mean, like,
Career.
it's really hard to, I would say, take the worry away and just say like, "Oh, just live in the present moment." I think it takes a lot more understanding than to just be like instantly like brush everything away and be like, "Okay, I'm gonna be present now and everything's gonna be okay." I feel like you have to first feel the worry, and then that trust will eventually like come through. Um, I feel like just saying like, "Oh, just live in the present moment" is kind of cliche also, because you have to go through all the fear, all the worry, and all the trauma in order to experience the present moment. Because the present moment can really just be a little glimpse. It could be a couple seconds, but it could be the most beautiful couple seconds ever. And then you're going to be hungry for those couple more seconds to be minutes, and then to be, your full life. And then those couple minutes will then lead to your dreams. In your dream state, you're going to be more present and more aware. So like, yeah, like living in the present moment is incredible, but you first have to realize that you were unconscious, and then it will, you know slowly
Right.
and slowly become easier to be present.
Right. Yeah, and I think that you're right on most of that, especially the fact that we're not conscious a lot of the times. That's essentially what I'm saying by being in the problem solving mindset. We're not
Mhm.
conscious, and yet I think it is kind of easy. It's easy in that you can take that couple seconds to step away. Yeah,
Mhm.
you're not going to be able to stay there and be completely consciously aware of the moment for minutes or hours on end at first, but you can most certainly test that and experience that just by observing the ants on the sidewalk or on the sand, and
Mhm.
really pay attention to that ant and think about its little world and how it's interacting in its little world or whatever. And then, yeah, then you're going to go back to your problems and you're going to go back to your things and you're going to go back to being unconscious again. And that's okay. And you don't have to try to hold on to staying in the moment, because that's the same exact thing as not being
Yeah.
conscious, but worrying about holding on. So it's a process that you can start off very simply, quickly, and easily, one little moment at a time. And then it can build over time as you practice it. Just like anything, you get good at what you practice.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, I mean, even when you're starting like a different hobby or anything, like first you are, I feel like, a bit more present because you have that focus, and that focus is really there. So the present moment starts with like a focus point, or just being determined in a way to figure something out. But also you have to be aware that you're being determined, because you could also get lost in your determination or the thing that you want to solve.
Right. Yeah, these questions and these conversations get so paradoxical so fast.
Mhm.
Like, I want to do the thing, but you can't want to do the thing so bad that you can't, then you don't do the thing anymore. It's a really, difficult thing to get your head wrapped around. And so again, I go back to, well, then don't get your head wrapped around it. Just, release a little and just give
Mhm.
it a try and not put pressure on yourself, because then we go back into the perfection thing where we go, oh, okay, well, in order to meditate really well, I have to do it perfectly.
Mhm.
And we put this impossible pressure on ourselves to do things perfectly
Mhm.
because we think that that's the right way. But in fact, any way that you meditate or any way that you're in the moment is the right way for you. And by judging whether you're doing it right, you're back into being unconscious again.
Yeah. Well, it's just taking a step back versus a step forward in a way. But you're taking that step back in order to take two.
Uh-oh. My poor internet connection. Well, oh, we lost her. Interesting. So am I still live and we lost her from the connection? That's pretty strange. All right. Brand new experiences today. So I'm sure she'll reconnect when she can. And I should probably move my van to a different place. Yeah. Yeah. Maybe better connection outside. Yeah. I'd have to bring everything out. Yep. So I don't know if you guys can see me or hear me or anything. So if anybody can let me know if you can hear me now, that would be good. Okay, good. Thank you, Joan. So well then, that's interesting. That might have been her the whole time, and I thought it was me because I'm doing the internet thing from my van for the first time ever. Aha, interesting. Okay, here she is. She's back.
Oh,
hello. Okay.
What was that?
I don't know, but it's interesting. Joan just said it's her. You are fine. So I'm wondering if actually you might be having an internet issue today, and that could be the problem, as opposed to me being in the van, which of course we would think that it would be me, but
I don't know. I'm connected now, so maybe there was a little lag.
Right.
It's Hawaii,
Okay.
so who knows?
Yeah. Right. Yeah. You're on an island, like thousands of miles away. So what do we know about that? Sarah Eid, thank you so much. Sarah Eid. Okay, so if you look behind me here, you see some awesome paintings on the wall. And Sarah Eid is an artist, and she was the one who helped me paint the interior of this van. So she did a lot of the work. In this case, she drew this outline, and then I essentially painted by number to paint to fill it in. And she did all kinds of cool stuff. So here is a beautiful sun starburst pattern on my ceiling. How do I go this way? There we go. Oh my gosh, I can't get the camera to do it. There we go. And then it's pretty cool because that's the ceiling, and it fades to like a sunset and then to night over the bed, for instance. So she did lots of cool stuff like that. So thank you, Sarah Eid.
I think you should just do a tour of your van right now.
Yeah. That would be cool. All right. So I'm trying
So where are you now? Where did you reside?
Oh, so I am in Tucson, Arizona now. So I was in Albuquerque for 2.5 months. And so it's a little warmer here. So now my weather is probably comparable to yours.
I don't know. It's been pretty cold. So.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean,
our mornings have been 61, 62.
Oh, wow. It's freezing. Here it's been upper 60s and 70s, low 70s.
So yeah, we are very compared right now. It is Hawaii's winter, so
right.
We get a little cold front now.
Yeah. Okay, a cold front. And how long does that last?
I don't know. It might last for another month or so, but usually it just we just had snow on Mauna Kea, which is on the Big Island. That's the big volcano that we have there. So usually when it snows there, then we get a bit chillier weather. It got to 55 at some point, so I'm not exaggerating. It's getting cold.
Right. So so you must be able to grow anything you want. You would be able to grow every fruit tree type and everything. You could grow cinnamon, or I'm sure it just goes on and on.
Cinnamon? How do you grow cinnamon? I don't think I've ever heard of that.
Oh yeah, it's a cool plant. It is a tropical plant, and it has these shoots that you like scrape the cinnamon
Oh,
off of. Yeah,
that's
it's pretty
interesting.
neat. Yeah.
Yeah, my backyard has a papaya tree that's starting to grow. And yeah, but most people have like mangoes and avocados. And then we have like a monk, I think it's called a monk fruit or something like that,
Hmm.
or jackfruit, one of those.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing, right? Like and then you just go outside and go, okay, I'm going to have something nice and fresh and perfect right off the vine right now. And meanwhile, the rest of us go to the grocery store and it's like cold and hard and because it needed to be that way to ship here, and so you've got to try to let it ripen laying on the counter, and it doesn't have the same flavor and so on and so forth. So I'm not complaining actually about I'm actually more amazed by what it would be like to live there or
Well,
Mexico or anywhere that's like that.
yeah, I mean the
It'd be really
fruit
good.
definitely tastes more different. I know when my mom visited, she would eat papaya in Chicago, and when she had a papaya here, it was completely different. They're much more sweeter and juicier here.
Yeah,
So yeah, there is a different purity to, getting it straight from the tree or from earth than, buying it from a store.
right.
You could definitely tell from, the processed like chemicals that they put on top of the fruit or on top of vegetables.
Yeah. Well, okay, so talk about living in the moment, right? Now you eat something like that that's so delicious and so sweet and so juicy, and you can
Hmm.
really focus in on all the messages that you're receiving as you consume something like that. You can
Yeah.
feel the sweetness in your mouth. You can feel the coldness. You can feel, the freshness, and you can really get lost in that, because a lot of times we just eat, and we barely even think about what we're doing. We don't, and we
Hmm.
taste it a little. We're like, oh yeah, well that doesn't taste bad, so I will eat it, as opposed to really, oh, I wanted to use a really cool word, like nourishing is not the right word, but to to really just favor. What do I want to say here? Like that
Savor.
savor. That's it. It rhymed with favor. Yes. To really savor every bite is an amazing
Hmm.
experience, and a wonderful way to live in the moment.
Yeah, I call it conscious eating in my way of teaching others. It's just to really focus in on each bite and each flavors. I remember when I was in New Zealand like 5 years ago, I did a big backpacking trek where I walked for 5 days with like, this huge backpack. And the first like 10 miles, like I took a break and I bought before the trek, I had to buy all of my food so that way I carried everything for the whole thing because there was no supermarkets on the trail. So I bought this papaya because I figured, or not papaya, a mango because I figured, oh, this will be nice and refreshing. This will be really good for me. And when I sat down, like I was just so tired. I peeled my mango and it was probably the best mango that I ever had. Like it was just like sour and sweet and just like so full. And I got so refreshed. Like my energy, I could tell that it just like completely rose up. And like I can still remember that moment to this day because it was just so good and just so like so presently aware of like how much I just craved something so refreshing after like such hard, I guess not labor, but just hard work of walking
Right.
with like a 50-pound backpack. And I'm just like, it's way over my ratio to my weight. So
Right.
it's definitely like, it's cool that like when you do something so challenging with your body, then you just become more present when you, I guess, reward yourself or when you overcome it. Then you're just like, wow, I really appreciate living or I really appreciate being in this moment
Right.
right now.
So would you call it living in the moment when you're really like suffering? Let's say, because that situation, like you're carrying this 50-pound backpack and you're tired, you're worn out, and maybe you hurt the bottoms of your feet hurt or something like that. And you're really focused in on how much pain you're in.
Mhm.
Is that the same thing? Do you see a corollary to living in the moment, even in that situation?
Yeah, totally. Because in that in the times when I was walking, I was doubting myself, but then I was also asking my spirit and asking, the trees and the elements to help me get through this. And so I would be listening more, or I'd be more aware of who's passing by, saying hi. And I was going to make it be like a silent retreat, but everybody there was just so nice because it's New Zealand. So it was definitely interesting, of more of like an inner battle, but it was a present inner battle. It's not like I was out, my mind was racing out like, oh my God, I don't even want to be here, or something like that. Like, I never had those type of moments. It was more of like really appreciating that I was doing this. It was at the time when I had a really bad ankle injury, so I kind of just wanted to figure out what was wrong with it. So I was just talking with nature mainly, and be like, hey, help me heal this ankle. Let me do this walk so I can just see my mental strength in the way, and just see how far I can go. Because it's really easy to just, stop and then turn back. But the fact that I kept pushing and kept going, I think that's fully living in the present moment. And then having those little breaks, and once I sat down, like really feeling my energy go down and be like, whoa, like my body is so alive right now. It's aching in pain, but I just feel so happy inside. So I feel
Uh-huh.
like there's definitely a linkage between being happy and being in the present moment. Yeah.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Okay. So yeah, I this kind of reminds me of a story that I probably haven't ever told before. And it was while I was learning some of this, I was working in a light worker training program. So I was working with other light workers who were in the process of discovering what their special gifts were. And
Mhm.
this one lady that was in the program, what we would do is we would experiment on each other. Essentially, we would heal each other and give each other feedback, so we knew, empirically what was happening. And so this one woman could work with the Mantis, which is another collective. And I remember her, going like, at some point she used them, she did something to me. And then like a week later, I thought, I don't know anything about the Mantis. And I was also working on trying to figure out how to channel more. And so I did automatic writing. And if you aren't familiar with automatic writing, for our audience, is where you actually sit down, and if possible, like if you can touch type without having to look at the keys, that's my favorite way of doing it, because then I can actually close my eyes and
Mhm.
just allow the things to come out and not think about what I'm writing, just let my fingers do stuff. And
Mm.
so I asked the question, who are the Mantis? And then I just typed stuff, and then I read it, and it was that they are a collective of the insects of the earth, and they have this kind of collective knowledge, and they can communicate with us through, just any other type of channeling, which I thought was amazing. And I thought at the same time, I was like, that's probably not it. And so I sent my writing to this woman who was channeling the Mantis, and I said, this is what I got. Is this what they do? And is this what they are? And she wrote back like, yeah, that's exactly it. You nailed it. That is precisely who the Mantis are. So I was like,
Mm.
oh, okay, cool. So then I was at a festival, and I was doing a soul essence activation for somebody at the festival. We were near a river, and it was dusk. So the mosquitoes, it was in Tennessee, and so the mosquitoes were coming out. They weren't crazy, but they were enough. And so, and they were irritating us. It was making it hard for me to do the healing. And so I
Mhm.
said, hold on a second, I want to try something. So I closed my eyes and I spoke to the Mantis, and I said, hey guys, could you help us and keep the mosquitoes away from us for the next about 10-15 minutes so I can complete this healing? I received a yeah, sure, essentially. And so I just went ahead with the healing, and they left us alone. They
Oh.
totally left us alone for like 10-15 minutes. And then as soon as it was over, then they resumed trying to eat us. So it was a really awesome experience, and it really
Mhm.
added a lot to my faith and my trust and all of this stuff, which was totally new to me at the time. And
Mhm.
I would doubt it frequently, because I would just be like, this is not how the world works. I'm used to this science-based world, not this crazy spiritually based world.
Yeah. But when we're present, that's when we can really communicate with our higher self and all the different guides that we have. It's just a lot more easier, because you're not just like doubt. You're not in that doubt, and you're not in, the future or the past, like thinking like, oh, well, what if it doesn't work? And then, you just trusted it, you surrendered. It's also just a part of surrendering. And when you surrender, that's when things kind of flow a bit better or messages come through a bit quicker.
Yeah, for sure.
As I do that too while painting, like I'll like be so in the zone with my music, I'll be dancing, having fun, and then I'll have a split second be like, wait, let's like try to connect this a little bit better. So like I'll take a moment, take a deep breath and close my eyes a bit and then just start talking to my guides and be like, hey, whoever wants to come through and teach me something, come on now, come on down now. And then all of a sudden I'll notice that my hand is moving in a different way, or I'm trying a different technique that I didn't even think I could do or didn't even know that I can do per se. But it's all part of just that surrendering and connecting and just being completely present in your actions. And it
Right.
can also be like during a conflict, like, if you're angry or you're like, in an argument and you just take a step back and you become present in it, you'll notice that inside you're actually okay, but you're feeling all this heat in your body just from the other person's reaction. And when
Mhm.
you're able to take a step back and just be like, hey, like, give yourself that little mental self check, then you're able to respond more consciously or respond without blowing something up even more, even though it doesn't need to.
Mhm. Yeah, and it's kind of cool because you're talking again to your guides and to receive information, and I've really experimented with this a lot, and I encourage everybody to, because sometimes I think that people don't realize that they have the ability to do it, and so they don't even try, or they're try instead of actually do. And so
Mhm.
one of the ways to do it that worked for me, and I don't know if it'll work for anybody else, but if you think it will, it probably will. And that was, I would receive information sometimes, but I didn't always know that I was receiving it. So what I asked one time, I sat down and said, hey guys, could you give me some sort of differentiating feeling when you are sending me information? And
Mhm.
so, because normally what happens is when I really connect, I feel kind of like tingling on my forehead, kind of across my forehead.
Mhm.
And I got a response, and it was, yeah, absolutely. And then they made, it's at this side. So then I suddenly got a tingle on this side, and they said, this is what we will do. We will make this tingle when you are receiving, or when we have something we want you to hear.
Mhm.
And so now when I go into meditation, usually this is what lights up first, and I'm in the meditation for a little bit. And then all of a sudden, if this starts to go, then I go, oh, okay, what do you guys have for me? And then if it doesn't sound as obvious that there's just something coming through, then I'll do an automatic writing style, not actually typing, but just, kind of allowing or tapping in to see if I can get them to say something, because automatic writing is essentially going, I'm going to start saying words now and you guys are going to take over, blah, 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 right? And so you can kind of do that inside your own head. Here's the words, go ahead and take over now. And then they
Mhm.
will, and then you'll all of a sudden have new thoughts that you've never
Yeah.
thought before.
Yeah. It's also a form of channeling too when you're doing that, because I've definitely done that with my book where I'll just like have one theme and then I'll just like not really pay attention, but I'll just keep typing. And then I'll go back and read it and have that like, oh wow, like type of moment. Or even now when I go back and reread my book that I'm still writing, I'll be like, did I write that? Like
Yeah.
really? Like I did that? Like I feel like I was writing to my future self without even knowing it. Like this is so relevant to my life. So it's
Uh-huh.
definitely fascinating when you just surrender and just like let things flow. Like you can do that with journaling too. Like, maybe you're not a typer, but maybe you like the pen and pencil type of thing. Or
Right.
maybe you like to sketch. Maybe you'll sketch something different if you just allow your just your creative side to just come about. Or maybe you're a singer and you just, start humming and start making a new beat. Could
Yeah.
also be the same thing.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. You can channel any type of creativity or any type of anything, really. Yeah. Like, yeah, dancing or, absolutely anything. So we got a question here. I like it. Any tips on remaining in the now as far as shooing away thoughts you don't want to focus on? Shoo away thoughts, shoo. So yeah, what for me, first of all, if that's a major issue, then don't be in resistance. So if you're like, oh gosh darn it, thoughts constantly, go away thoughts, blah blah, then I talk about this all the time. You're lowering your vibration. You're surrounding the thing that you do not want with a lower vibrational emotion. You're surrounding it with frustration or disappointment
Mm-hmm.
or judgment. You're judging yourself. Why can't I get rid of this stupid thought? Gosh darn it, right? So I say do the opposite. I say welcome the thought. Come on in. Maybe there's something important here that I'm supposed to get. And that's one where I go, have a pen and a pad of paper, because sometimes those random thoughts are coming in to remind you of something or to give you some sort of interesting bit. And so what you can do then is write that down. Like, okay, let's just write that thought down. Now I don't need to keep focusing on that. So let's move on. And what often happens is that thought doesn't come up anymore. And so you can kind of work through the majority of the thoughts that are in your way by just allowing them, and then and either taking note of them or just going thanks, bye, and waving to them as they leave you. And I would say that the other thing is, instead of trying to get rid of those thoughts, it's way easier to focus on something else. So right now, if I were to say to you, imagine that it's raining, and think about what it feels like for the rain. Think about the wetness in the air, the humidity, you can feel it on your skin, the smell of the rain as it hits the sidewalk or it hits the grass, the sound of the rain on your roof or whatever. Then you can really tap into all those experiences. And while you're doing that, you're not really having other thoughts. You are actually so focused on that thing that there's not a capacity for other thoughts. So that's the other aspect of it, is to really just focus on something else.
Yeah. I usually like to drink water, and that helps me, or just go out for a run. That helps clear my mind. Sometimes I'll even take a nap if it's like way too intense in my thoughts, or even just listen to a guided meditation. And usually, if my thoughts are too like scattered, I usually notice that I fall asleep in a meditation, just because it's like I'm battling between this or that, this or that. Um, if you live by the ocean, like that's one of my favorite things, to just really clear your thoughts, or just to get out of your head and just to realize that you're okay. I think like if you just immerse yourself in one of your passions, that can definitely help you with
Oh
your thoughts,
yeah.
because then you're going to get into this really beautiful trance with your true self, and doing what you love, whether it's like knitting, or I wouldn't really recommend watching TV, but maybe like something like a comedy always makes me like laugh and shake me out of my head knowing that I'm okay.
Right. Yeah. Well, and it's kind of cool too. Like one of the things that might be happening for Nate is that he's got thoughts that are worries or concerns about, what's happening next, or what am I doing? What am I doing with my life, or how do I
Yeah.
get over this suffering, or whatever? And instead of all of that, to be able to just set it aside for the moment. Like, you'll get back to it. You can get back to all those worries later. They're not going anywhere. You're just going to take a little mind vacation from those worries. And it can be, like we were saying earlier, it can be just a minute or two, it can be a second or two, but the more that you practice taking a vacation from your worries, the better you'll get at it.
Yeah, exactly. It's just a matter of feeling that first note of release, and then just taking note, then taking note of how you got that release, and then trying to do those things again. I mean, it could just be a split second, or it could just be an alarm that goes off in your head, and be like, oh wait, like, why am I worrying about this? I'm actually like totally fine. But I would say just focus on the little things right now. So like, say if you have a family, then spend time more with your family, or if you have kids, spend time with your kids. Kids always have
Or
a
your
way of
dog.
uplifting, or your dog, or your cat.
Yeah.
It's the little things that you have around you right now that can really uplift you. If you don't have any of those, then pick up a book. Try to just in a book and like see what a different author has for you. It was really cool. I went to the bookstore, I think last week or 2 weeks ago. This is the first time that I felt this. It felt like I was walking in and meeting different souls. That each book that I walked past was just like a different person that I was meeting. And I never felt that before in a bookstore. And I found myself walking around different aisles that I've never walked through. So it's like really feeling that you're here and you're present and knowing that there's way more than you even know, and just trusting that your feelings or the way that you walk towards or gravitate towards have a message for you. Because I found like a really cool book that I probably would have never like come across if I hadn't like been so open to like, okay, I'm gonna walk into this bookstore and just see what happens.
Right.
So it's like sometimes when I go in a bookstore, I'm just like in a rush, like I'm just gonna go to one section and then I'm gonna go home. But like this time I was like actually walking very slowly and just feeling it out and just seeing where I decided to want to turn.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I mentioned this last week, but I definitely like going to somewhere that I've never been before. That really breaks you out of everything because you go into observation mode. So, you know, and I've talked about this before too, but one of the most amazing things that you can do is listen. And I don't mean it just with your ears. You can listen with all of your senses. So you can go into a place and listen with your eyes, listen with your ears, listen with your nose and smell new smells. And when you focus on that, when you listen, you are not thinking. If you are really trying to listen to something, oh, there was a bird sound. I've never heard that before. Is it going to do it again? And then you sit there in silence, waiting for the bird to make the sound again. You're not sitting there thinking about, you know, really anything else. You're just waiting. And that waiting state is meditation. So anytime you can go into a listening, waiting, state, then you are living in the moment. You are actually living in the moment and you're not thinking at the same time. And those are two beautiful things.
Yeah. And then one of my guy friends, he said that men have a thing where they sometimes just don't think about anything, that their minds are completely silent. Is that true?
No.
No?
Maybe for him. Sounds great. But that's not the case in my case. I come from a long line of worriers. And so if I have a moment to myself in the past, especially, I move into worry. Absolutely. So I don't agree with that at all. I think, yeah, that's wonderful that he can do that. But I don't think that's a guy thing.
Okay. Well, I mean, I told him, like, I feel like I get that sometimes. Like, sometimes, or I'm like zoned out. I really just don't think about anything. I'm just like, where did I just go, or something like that. But
Sure.
it's very interesting.
But usually you can kind of tell, like if you really work on it, you're like, where did I just go? Oh yeah, I was thinking about something. It felt like I wasn't thinking about anything, but I actually was. And the brain, oh, this is a wonderful, crazy thing. Okay, so the brain, just its purpose is to provide thoughts, right? The heart, its purpose is to pump blood, and the stomach, its purpose is to digest food. The brain's purpose is to provide thoughts, and it provides thoughts endlessly. It will always provide thoughts. I thought, well, wouldn't it be funny if there was like new Amazon product, brain in a box, and you order this thing and it comes in and it's just like an electronic device that you plug into the wall, and then it just spits out thoughts. It's just like, hey, what are we having for dinner? Hey, did you do this already? Did you do that already? Oh, I sure hope it doesn't rain tomorrow. And at first it would be like, wow, this is really cool. This is like, let's look at this thing go. And then within about 25 seconds, maybe 20, maybe a minute, maybe 5 minutes, you'd finally be like, okay, I'm done with this thing. And you'd unplug the darn thing from the wall and go, whew, wow, I'm glad that's over. But that's what's constantly happening. The brain is providing thoughts as fast as it possibly can. And so that's why all the, like the shamans and the meditation teachers and the gurus and everything, they tell you to stop thinking, because the thoughts are generally not going to be very good. They're going to be unconscious thoughts, and you're going to be in that state. So one of the ways I like that, because that's your ultimate goal, but to just tell somebody to do that is very difficult. So the goal the approach that I really like is to be the observer and look at the brain as though it is an organ that is part of you, but it isn't you. It's just like your heart. You don't look at your heart and go, that heart is me. If you asked anybody in science, if you said, hey, if we took your brain and we put it in a box and and hooked it all up, and would you still exist? And they would say, oh, absolutely, because that's me. I'm that brain, right? But that's not truly what you are. The brain is just one organ of many as part of your three-dimensional self. And you are much bigger than that. You are a multidimensional being that's tapping in very strongly to this three-dimensional self, but it is not everything by any stretch.
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah, the brain is definitely very fascinating. And also, like, well, with the whole like silencing your mind, your thoughts, I don't necessarily agree with them. I think it's just a matter of, I guess it could be a control, like you should control your thoughts. Like when you're not feeling good or when you're in that worry state, then try to maybe think about an opposite thought and then go back to the worry and then go back to the happy thought and then kind of just go back and forth, noting that they're kind of one and the same, except that one has a different reaction than the other. There's this one meditation that I teach. It's called Iris Yoga Nidra, and that one definitely works with your opposites. So when you feel pain in your body, then you try to locate for a part in your body that you don't feel that. And then you go back and forth between you until you realize that you've actually released that pain because it was just in your mind. So your mind, I feel, also creates these pains or these worries, and then they get stuck in your body. So like it's for you to release them through either movement or through some sort of new diet or through some physical therapy or whoever you need. But it's not about silencing those pains. It's about listening to them as well, and to really know, because when you listen to the things that are happening in your body, or maybe this worry, it could just be a foreshadow for maybe something else, for maybe an even bigger disease that might be start to come about in your system. But I think that it shouldn't be about silencing them. It should be more about listening to what's actually happening in your thoughts and then filtering through the ups and downs of them.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I like that that terminology, or the way you just described that, because I work with people who are struggling with suffering like that all the time, and I don't say it exactly like that, but I do have them focus in on what the pain is and to experience it in all of its complexity, because it's usually way more than just the physical symptom or the physiological symptom that you are interpreting. It's deeper than that. It incorporates, your history, your past experiences that you've had that probably kind of can be traced back to the beginning of it. And so to dive in, like, for instance, I thought of a friend of mine who had a weight in his chest, and I gave him an activation to relieve that. And as soon as I did, he was like, oh my gosh, I remember what this is from. And he's like, he had I think it was like a childhood bully that used to like hold him down and sit on his chest. And he was never able to do anything. He was completely helpless in this situation. And so when we removed the burden that he'd been carrying with him of this, he realized, oh, this is what it's from. And so he was feeling weak. He was, he was feeling overpowered. And so that had an impact on the way that he looked at himself from then on. He saw himself as not as powerful as he truly was.
Yeah. Yeah, then that's what it is. It's not fully I mean, it is about listening to that pain, but then it's also diving into, well, where did it come from? Like what triggered it? Like I was just out surfing, or my friend was visiting, so like he wanted to learn how to surf, but I had my huge surf accident that I'm still like trying to like heal and from my PTSD from it. So like he kind of forced me to finally like get over it in a way. So one time I went out and I like couldn't. I sat out by the shoreline because I was just like too traumatized. And then the next day, like we went out again because it was his last day here. So I was like, okay, well, I should probably go again. And at first I like waited and waited and waited, and then I really had to go to the bathroom, and I'm like, okay, well, screw it, I'm just gonna go to the ocean and just like try to catch a wave. And I caught like one awesome wave that like really made me like remember why I loved surfing. And it's like, well, why did I have this huge fear of doing of what I loved? Like, yeah, I had this huge accident that slit my head open, but like whatever, like I have to get over it, because
Right.
I can't just like keep postponing my joy or keep postponing what I used to love to do on a daily basis just because of this one thing that happened to me.
Right.
So it's like just a matter of like really owning up to what it is that you're dealing with, because it's really blocking your joy essentially.
Right. And really what you were kind of doing there, I think, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but if you were essentially living in that past moment
Mhm.
when you're worried about that happening. So you're not living in the now, you're living in the old now, the now that's no longer now.
Mhm.
And you're projecting or predicting that that is the same now that's going to happen again. Now you're probably doing this at a subconscious level. You're not doing this logically. You're not saying, oh, well, it's going to happen again. You're like, no, that's not going to happen again, body, shut up.
Yeah.
But the right brain is the one that says, hey, I don't care what your left brain thinks. I'm nervous. I'm worried. And
Mhm.
so I'm going to make you freeze up so that you can't do that thing because I don't want to die. And that's all I care about is
Yeah.
your survival.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think there is still a little bit of presence still of like living while I had those, because I was, sitting on the beach and observing all the beautiful elements around, but then I was still internally aware of like, why do I keep feeling like this? And it wasn't until like I physically like made myself like go into the ocean and like actually physically feel that breakthrough that I had. And it's like just really trusting myself, because I kept it saying like, just one wave, Monika, just catch one wave.
Yeah.
And I like literally I paddled out and I caught one right away. And I'm just like hot, like my friend was out here for almost 2 hours and he could barely catch one. And like I got one like right away. So it's just a matter of just like fully just like, come on, Monika, like shake yourself up. Like, you know how to do this.
We can
Just
do
stop,
this.
like, just stop being so like, I guess, frozen in a way, just how like
Yeah.
I got frozen in this like Wi-Fi dilemma earlier.
Right. Yeah, it's amazing. But at the same time, if you have those problems, and this is for anybody in the audience, if you have that frozen reaction or response to whatever it is that you're experiencing, you don't have to beat yourself up over the fact that you are frozen over that experience, because
Mhm.
that is a very natural thing. And it's another survival characteristic. It's part of your survival programming. So one of the aspects to work on is not necessarily to like be disappointed that you can't do it, but to accept and move into a state of non-resistance and just go, okay,
Mhm.
this is how I'm feeling. What would I prefer to do? And then truly ask yourself that, and then follow that as best you can. Just be present with the way that you're thinking, the way that you're feeling, and take whatever steps are necessary. Like, okay, so I have a great deal of fear about trying to catch a wave. So maybe I can just go out in the water and I can just kind of float around and paddle around a little bit. Like, and
Mhm.
then, not worry about trying to catch a wave, but I'm still out there. I'm still enjoying the water, the temperature of the water, the feeling of the board, the ocean, the waves, all
Mhm.
that stuff. And then if you just decide, well, okay, that's good enough for today, then it is. It's
Yeah.
perfect. It's amazing. Like, be satisfied and excited that you did that. And then the next day, maybe you'll try it a little bit more. Maybe you'll, sit on it instead of lay on it. Whatever, like
Yeah.
whatever the steps are to get you there.
Mhm. No, that's definitely what I did, because this happened to me last year in February. I think it was around this time too. I think it was like the 16th of February. And I think I went out maybe less than 10 times, but that's how I started. I started with just getting on my board, picking up my board, or just I think a couple times I just put it in my car and then didn't even go surf. But like I did the step of actually putting the board like in my car. And then I would start of just like it's paddling a little bit, and then like paddling to the crowd, and then realizing, okay, this is way too much. So yeah, it's just little baby steps. So even if it is like your thoughts or it's something else, like just take those little baby steps first and you'll get through it. Like I remember like earlier this week when I realized that like, okay, I think I need some help out. I just kept thinking like, okay, I should probably go see a healer. I should go see what this trauma is all about. And then like my inner voice was just like, just go out and paddle. Just figure it out yourself. Like you're going to get like the same answer that everybody else has told you. Like, oh, it's just your accident. It's just normal. Or maybe like some sort of past life will come out. But like still, it's still like me living in this moment is what's going to help heal me to get past the trauma that I have. And like, yeah, maybe sometimes you just don't have that mental strength right now, but just taking those baby steps will help you build up that mental strength when you are ready. And like in the beginning of this accident, I definitely did have some healers to help me to get over to get over it in the beginning, because that's just what you logically need. But over time, it's still going to be you that needs to move past it. It's just like rock climbing. Like it's really just you that makes you go up higher and higher. The person below you can't keep pulling you up the whole time. It's still really you that you need to trust and to believe in.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I had like a completely irrational fear of flying. So, and I had never flown. And as a matter of fact, when I was a kid, I thought maybe I would be a pilot as my career. So then when my first flight, I was a little bit like, oh my gosh, this is insane. Like what? And I was fine, right? Like I did the whole thing and I didn't panic or anything. But I found that each subsequent time that I flew, I got more and more nervous. And then I had this harrowing experience where there was a crazy storm, and it was like, in Chicago, we weren't going to be able to land in Chicago. We were circling and circling and circling. And the captain finally comes over the thing and says, hey, we can't land in Chicago because it's absolutely nuts, but we can land here, which is like, 4-hour drive away from Chicago. And he said, and it's fine, and he's like, the winds are only 49 miles an hour. If they were any faster, then we wouldn't be able to land. Like, oh, great. Okay. And he goes, and we're running out of fuel because we've just been flying around for so long. And it's near the end of our shift. So all of the pilots and the co-pilots can't keep flying because we're not allowed to, because we'll be considered tired. So he tells us all this. I'm like, oh no, this is terrible. This is the worst possible scenario. So we're coming in for a landing, and the wind was so strong. I thought that the wings were going to hit the ground as we were getting whipped around, coming in for this landing. And then, of course, you've probably experienced this, where you don't land straight because the way the wind is. So we're coming in at I'm trying to land this way, right? And I'm coming in sideways. And then right as the plane is about to hit the ground, he just jerks it around and we land, and people are, screaming because they think they're going to die. And then, and then they go, okay, well, people could get off the plane and rent a car and drive to Chicago if you want, or if you stick around, then we'll take you the rest of the way. And I'm like, I'm out of here. but luckily the person I was with was like, nah, we'll be fine. Like, okay. And so the land in Chicago was easy compared to that. And that really changed me. I was able to be like, heck, if I can handle that, then I can handle just about anything. So it was that extreme scenario that actually totally broke me of my fear of the landing part of flying. So now when again, I'm like, wee, yay, this is fun. So, it's for everybody, it's different, right? But sometimes just putting yourself in the situation is all you need to convince the right or the left brain, whichever is the culprit, to go, oh, we're going to be okay. It's going to be fine.
It's like being vulnerable with yourself, that, you can trust the universe, or you can trust the present moment.
Yeah.
Also going back to that knowing.
Yep.
Knowing that it's going to be fine.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. And when you think that you're here for a reason, that you came here very specifically to do something, and you might not know what it is, but you
Mhm.
know that you're here for a reason and you've got your spirit team that's helping you, then you have a lot more confidence, or you can if you choose to, because it's like, hey, they're here to help you succeed in whatever that mission is. And again,
Mhm.
even if you don't know what it is yet, you're still here for it. And when you kind of rest and relax and accept and that support, then you can actually lean on it quite a bit and and just go along for the ride and experience all that you're here to experience without as much stress, because they've got your back. It's like, oh, my superhero friends are here to make sure that I don't have anything really terrible happen to me, so I can actually enjoy this ride a little bit more because I know I've got that support. Just like you did, you had that support when you were floundering around in the ocean after your accident.
Mhm. Yeah, I just kept calling on that. I think that was the first thing that I did. I just called upon my guides. I was like, "Hey, help me out now. Like, I'm bleeding up in my brain. Like, help me."
Right.
But yeah, no, I just trusted it that I would be okay. And then all of a sudden, like everybody around was just like very concerned and very helpful. And I got out of the ocean, and then my friend took me to the hospital. So, yeah, it's just a part of trusting. And I think just me praying in that moment helped me from not having a concussion in the ocean. And,
Right.
when you just become aware and just let go and just really, really trust, then that just helps your body also elevate your spirit and elevate your energy and vibration to then get past that sickness, because I guess you can call it a sickness in a way.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's just part of just like doing those little pep talks with yourself. Be like, hey, come on, come on now.
Yeah, we're gonna be fine. Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, awesome. It's already been an hour. That was super fast, as
Mhm.
always, and it was super a pleasure. Is there anything? I've got another free workshop coming up in about an hour. Yeah, it's an hour. So if anybody is interested in that, it's to help people with negative entity attachments, but it's not just that. It helps people with any issue that you're dealing with.
Mhm.
So I highly recommend you check that out, and I can provide a link to that somewhere. I'll put it in the description of this.
Cool. Yeah, I don't have any new updates, but feel free to check out my website for art. I'm getting a lot of custom orders, so if you're looking for a
Yay!
new original piece, time to get in line, I guess.
Nice. That's great. Did you finish the big one for Chicago?
I did, and they got it yesterday, and they were just overwhelmed with joy, so
Yay!
I'll be
That's so
posting that
cool.
soon.
Yeah, I want to see a picture of that in place. That'll be
Yeah,
great.
so yeah, it's gotta get they're gonna frame it, and then they're gonna put it on the wall, so I'm excited.
Beautiful. Congratulations.
Thank you, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, everybody. We love you unconditionally. At least I do. I don't know if Monica does. I assume she does.
I do, I do.
And we'll see you next week.
Aloha, everyone.